My name's Jess. I've always been the kind who gets things done on her own. By the time I was 33, I was deep into my career, not even thinking about settling down, despite the occasional admirer. But, as they say, life happens when you're busy making other plans. It was a regular Wednesday evening, and I was about to head home from work when my car decided it had other ideas. There I was, stranded in the office parking lot, hood up, hands on my hips, cursing under my breath at the smoking engine. That's when Tom walked over. I noticed him a few times around the lot. He worked in another part of the building. Tall, with a kind of quiet confidence about him, he had that look that said he could handle just about anything. "Car trouble?" he asked, an eyebrow raised as he approached. "You could say that," I replied, trying not to show my frustration. "It just started making this awful noise, and then smoke everywhere." Tom chuckled, which normally would tick me off, but there was something genuine about it that kept me calm. "Mind if I take a look?" "Be my guest." I gestured towards the open hood. "I'm Jess, by the way." "Tom," he said, extending a grease-free hand, surprisingly. "Let's see what's going on with this old beast." He poked around for a minute, then straightened up, wiping his hands. "It's your alternator, I'd bet my last dollar on it. You're not going anywhere tonight unless you get it towed." "Great, just my luck." "Fantastic," I sighed. "Thanks for the diagnosis." Tom laughed again, pulling out his phone. "I've got a buddy who owns a shop not too far from here. Let me call him and see if he can help us out." While he talked on the phone, I couldn't help but notice how easy it was to just stand there with him. It wasn't like me to feel comfortable with a stranger so quickly. "All right, he can tow your car tonight, and he'll look at it first thing tomorrow. I can give you a lift home if you need," Tom offered after he hung up. I hesitated for a moment. Mom always said not to get in cars with strangers, but then again, I wasn't exactly a kid anymore. "Sure, that'd be great. Thanks, Tom." "No problem. Just trying to be helpful," he said with a smile. "Besides, it's not every day I get to rescue a damsel in distress." "Whoa there, cowboy." I shot back playfully, "I'm no damsel, and I'm not in distress. I just have a stubborn car." "Noted." Tom grinned as we walked to his car. Stubborn car, tough owner. The drive was short but filled with easy conversation. We talked about work, our favorite places to eat around town, and some of the crazy experiences we had at our jobs. It was refreshing to talk to someone so normal. When he dropped me off at my apartment, he handed me a business card. "In case you need a ride to the shop tomorrow, or if your car gives you more grief." I took the card, a small smile playing on my lips. "Thanks, Tom. Maybe I'll call you, and not just for car troubles." He winked as he drove off, leaving me there with a weird feeling in my stomach. Excitement? Maybe. For the first time in a long while, I was actually looking forward to what tomorrow might bring. After Tom and I met, things moved pretty fast in a good way. He was open right from the start, which I respected a lot. But as we got closer, he started to share more about his family dynamics, and it wasn't the pretty picture I was used to growing up with. Tom's older brother, Mike, had always been the golden boy in the eyes of their parents, especially their mom, Linda. According to Tom, Linda doted on Mike, always talking him up as the smartest and most successful. Mike got more attention, more praise, and yeah, more of everything else too. Tom seemed to have made his peace with being the second fiddle, but for someone like me, who came from a family where love and fairness were a big deal, it was hard to swallow. I remember telling Tom, "It's not right, you know. You're just as great as anyone, Mike included." Tom just shrugged, a little uncomfortable. "That's just how it is, Jess. I've dealt with it. Let's not make waves, okay?" The first time I met Linda, it was clear she wasn't thrilled about me. It wasn't anything she said outright, it was more the way she talked about Mike in front of us, barely acknowledging Tom's achievements. "Mike just got promoted again. Can you believe it? We're so proud," she'd gush, while Tom just nodded along. Despite all that, I still tried to make a connection, but it felt like hitting a brick wall. Eventually, I realized maybe Tom and I were better off without trying so hard to win them over. 2 years down the line, Tom and I decided to tie the knot. It wasn't a big affair, just something small, with a few close friends and family. Mike, surprisingly, was genuinely happy for us, which was more than I could say for Linda and her husband. They showed up, sure, but there wasn't much joy in their congratulations. At the reception, I caught Linda boasting to another relative about Mike's latest business venture, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. I was mingling nearby with some of our friends when Tom caught my eye, a look of resignation on his face. I walked over to him, squeezing his hand. "Hey, let them talk about whatever. Today's about us, right?" I whispered. "Right," Tom nodded, giving me a small smile. "Thanks for putting up with all this, Jess." When Mike and his wife welcomed their first child, a boy, the entire family went all out. I mean, it was like a royal celebration. Linda threw a huge bash, balloons, cake, the works. Her social media was on fire with photos and posts about being the world's happiest grandma. The love and pride she poured into that event were obvious to anyone who saw it. A year later, Tom and I had our little Emily, and the contrast in Linda's reaction couldn't have been starker. There was no big party, no social media fanfare. Honestly, it stung more than I thought it would. When Linda called to congratulate us, her voice carried that formal tone reserved for acquaintances, not family. "Congratulations, Jess, Tom. A girl, that's nice," she'd said, her enthusiasm as flat as a pancake. "Thanks, Linda. We're really excited." I tried to keep my voice bright, but it was hard. "That's wonderful. Let me know when you have the baptism planned. I'll make sure to clear my schedule," she replied, and that was pretty much it. At Emily's baptism, the disparity became even more obvious. Linda came, of course, she's the grandma after all, but her whole demeanor was so offhand it might as well have been another Sunday service for her. While we were setting up the hall for the small gathering after the ceremony, I overheard Linda talking to one of her friends. "Oh, Mike's boy is just starting to walk. It's incredible how quickly he's picking it up. We think he'll be quite the athlete." Feeling a bit irked, I walked over to Tom, who was arranging chairs and didn't seem to notice his mother's gushing about his nephew. "Tom, doesn't it bother you? The way your mom is all over your nephew and just here for Emily?" Tom looked up, a slight frown creasing his brow. "Yeah, it does. But what can we do, Jess? It's how she is. Mike's always been the star. But Emily's your star, our star. Doesn't she deserve the same?" I pushed back, not ready to drop it. Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Of course, she does. And she'll always have us. I know it's not the same, but..." "But nothing," I cut in, my frustration peaking. "She should care more, Tom. It's not fair to Emily." "You think I don't know that? But confronting my mom, it's just going to make things worse. She won't change," he said, almost pleadingly. As the day went on, I tried to shake off the feeling of disappointment. I focused on our friends and the part of the family that was thrilled for us. Emily was a bundle of joy, oblivious to the adult tension swirling around her. Post-baptism, we had a little party back at our place. Linda stayed a bit, mostly keeping to herself or chatting with Tom's dad, who seemed to be trying to make up for his wife's lack of enthusiasm by being extra cheerful. As Linda was leaving, I decided to try one more time. "Linda, we missed seeing you with Emily today. She's getting so big already, isn't she?" Linda paused, her keys in hand, and actually looked at me for a moment. "Yes, she is. Time flies. Well, take care of her. And let me know if you need anything." Emily grew more curious and chatty as she hit her 3rd birthday. Kids, they notice more than you think, and it wasn't long before she started asking about her grandparents. "Mommy, why doesn't Grandma Linda come to see me like she sees Cousin Jack?" Emily's little voice was full of innocent confusion one evening while we were looking at family photos online. I paused, not sure how to explain family politics to a 3-year-old. Well, sweetie, Grandma Linda is very busy, and she lives a bit far away. But we see her on special days, right? It was a weak excuse, and even Emily seemed to sense it. But she sees Jack all the time. He has lots of pictures with her, Emily pointed out, her brow furrowing slightly. Tom, overhearing us from the dining room where he was fixing one of Emily's broken toys, came over and knelt beside her. Hey, Pumpkin, Grandma loves you a lot too. We all show our love in different ways, okay? Emily looked at him, then at me, and nodded, though it was clear she didn't fully buy it. Okay, Daddy. The conversation didn't sit well with me. That night, after Emily went to bed, I brought it up with Tom. We were in the kitchen, me sipping my tea while he cleaned up. Tom, this isn't right. Emily's noticing the difference. How long before it starts affecting her? I said, my voice low but firm. Tom put down the dish he was drying and leaned against the counter. I know, Jess. It sucks. But what do you suggest we do? Confront my mom? At least let her know how we feel. It's not just about visits. It's the way she's being treated compared to Jack. It could hurt her, growing up feeling less loved. I argued, feeling my frustration rise. Tom sighed heavily. I'll talk to her. I'm not expecting miracles, but maybe if she realizes it's affecting Emily. Thank you, I said, feeling a mix of relief and dread. A few days later, Tom and I decided to visit Linda without Emily. We arrived at her house, and after some initial small talk, Tom steered the conversation to what was on our minds. Mom, we need to talk about something important, Tom began, his tone more serious than usual. Linda looked between us, her expression cautious. What's wrong? Is it Emily? It's about Emily, and you, Tom continued. She's been asking why you don't visit her like you do Jack. It's starting to affect her. Linda stiffened, her face tightening. I see all my grandchildren when I can. You know how busy I am. But Mom, it's not just about time. It's about how differently you treat them. Emily feels it. We feel it, I added, trying to keep my voice calm but firm. Linda's eyes flashed. Are you accusing me of favoring my grandchildren? Not accusing, Mom. It's just what's happening. We're worried about Emily, Tom explained, his voice steady. Linda sighed, looking away for a moment before meeting our eyes again. I'll try to do better, but I don't like being told how to be a grandmother. We're not telling you how to be a grandmother. We just want Emily to feel as loved as Jack, I said, hoping she'd understand the difference. Linda nodded slowly, her posture relaxing slightly. I'll make more of an effort. That's all I can promise. That night, as I checked on Emily, asleep and peaceful in her bed, I felt a renewed sense of protectiveness. Whatever Linda's response would be, Tom and I were determined to make sure Emily grew up knowing she was loved and valued, no less than anyone else in the family. Emily's 7th birthday was coming up, and she was all excited about her party. The house was decorated with balloons and streamers, and Emily was buzzing around in her favorite princess costume. Guests started arriving, and the kids were having a blast. I kept an eye on the door, waiting for Linda and George. They finally showed up, about half an hour late. Linda had a small, somewhat dusty-looking gift bag in her hand. Emily ran up to them, excited. Grandma, Grandpa, she squealed, hugging George tightly. Happy birthday, sweetheart, George said, hugging her back. Linda handed Emily the gift bag with a tight smile. Here you are, dear. Happy birthday, she said, her voice lacking warmth. Emily opened the gift right away. It was a small stuffed animal, clearly not new. Oh, thank you, Grandma. Emily tried to hide her disappointment. I caught Tom's eye, and he frowned slightly. We both saw the letdown on Emily's face. I was about to say something when Carly, my friend, who'd overheard some guests talking, pulled me aside. Jess, did you hear about Linda's gift to Jack last week? A whole space-themed party with a professional telescope and all. And Emily gets that? Carly nodded towards the stuffed animal. I clenched my fists, feeling my face heat up. I can't believe this. Every time, Carly. It's like she does it on purpose. The party continued with lots of guests and relatives mingling and enjoying the day. Suddenly, I noticed Emily wasn't around. I found her crying in one of the rooms. "Sweetie, what happened?" I asked, kneeling beside her. "Mommy, Cousin Jack said I'm a second-class person and I need to wash up before I can play with him," she sobbed, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I felt a surge of anger. "He said what?" I stood up, stormed into the living room, and pulled Tom aside. "Tom, Jack is bullying Emily. He just told her she's second class." Tom's face turned red with anger. "What? I'll sort this out." He immediately went to find his brother, Mike. Mike was taken aback. "I don't understand, Tom. Jack's just a kid. Where'd he get that idea?" Nearby, Jack, unaware of the grown-up tensions, casually mentioned, "Grandma said not to play with Emily. She told me." Silence fell over the room. Everyone turned to look at Linda, who was visibly embarrassed. "This is unacceptable, Linda. You need to apologize," one of the guests said out loud. Others murmured in agreement. Linda, cornered and flustered, muttered a reluctant apology and, looking at Emily, added, "I'm sorry, dear. How about we spend some time next week, just you and me?" Despite my doubts, I agreed. Maybe this was a chance for Linda to right her wrongs. I nodded, hoping for the best. "Okay, Linda. Let's try that." After the birthday party fiasco, things were tense at home. Tom and I knew we couldn't let it slide. It was more than just about a gift, it was about how Linda's attitude was affecting our daughter. We needed to have a real, no-holds-barred conversation with her. The following week, we decided to meet with Linda at her house. On the drive over, Tom seemed nervous, gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual. "You okay?" I asked, touching his arm gently. "Yeah, just not looking forward to this talk. But it's got to be done, for Emily," he replied, his voice steady but strained. We arrived and found Linda in her garden, pruning some bushes. She looked up, wiping sweat from her brow with a dirty glove. "Tom, Jess, what brings you here? Something wrong?" Linda's voice was cautious, a hint of defensiveness already lacing her tone. "We need to talk, Mom. About what happened at Emily's party," Tom said, getting straight to the point. Linda sighed, setting down her gardening shears. "I thought this might be coming. Let's go inside." Once in the living room, I decided to kick things off. "Linda, what Jack said at the party, and your behavior, it's hurting Emily. She feels less loved, and that's not okay." Linda crossed her arms, her back straightening. "I already apologized for that. Jack's words were unfortunate, but kids say things without meaning them. It's more than just Jack, Linda. It's about how you treat her differently from her cousin. It sends a message, not just to the kids but to everyone," I pressed, trying to keep my voice calm but firm. Linda looked away, then back at us. "I do the best I can. I've always favored boys, it's just how I was raised. But I love all my grandchildren." "But your actions don't show that, Linda." "Actions speak louder than words," Tom interjected, his tone more forceful than I'd heard in a long time. There was a pause, heavy with tension, before Linda finally spoke, her voice softer, almost vulnerable. "Maybe I've been wrong. It's hard for me to admit, but perhaps I haven't been fair to Emily." Tom and I exchanged a quick glance, surprised by her admission. "I don't know how to fix this overnight, but I'm willing to try. For Emily," Linda continued, her eyes meeting mine, then Tom's. "We appreciate that, Linda. Maybe start by spending some quality time with Emily. Just the two of you," I suggested, hoping to bridge the gap. Linda nodded. "I'd like that. I'll call and set something up. A day at the zoo, perhaps? She likes animals, doesn't she?" "She does," I smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. It was supposed to be a fresh start. Linda had promised to spend the whole day with Emily, just the two of them, which I thought was a great step towards mending their relationship. So, you can imagine my surprise when I saw her grandson, Jack, climbing into the car with them. "Linda, I thought today was about you and Emily spending time together," I said, a bit confused as we stood by her car. "I know, Jess, but I thought it would be good for them to have some time together too, to reconcile and fix things from the birthday party," Linda replied, sounding like she had the best intentions. Although hesitant, I didn't want to argue in front of the kids. "Alright, just make sure Emily has a good time too," I said, and gave Emily a little hug and a kiss. "You've got your phone, sweetie. Call me if you need anything, okay?" "I will, Mommy," Emily said, a bit uncertain but trying to be brave as she climbed into the car. I watched them drive off, feeling a mix of emotions but hoping for the best. Several hours later, my phone rang. It was Emily, and she was crying. "Mommy, I'm so cold and I'm scared," she sobbed into the phone, her voice quivering. "Baby, where are you? Why are you cold? It's warm outside," I said, my heart starting to race with worry. "I'm at the ice rink, Mommy. Grandma went somewhere with Jack. I don't know where they are," she cried, and my worry turned into anger. "The ice rink? Emily, why are you at an ice rink? Did Grandma not tell you where she was going?" "She said we were going for a walk, and then we came here. I didn't bring my jacket, Mommy. It's so cold," she continued, her voice shaking. "Okay, sweetheart, find someone who works there, maybe at the desk or a coach, and give them the phone," I instructed, trying to keep my voice calm for her sake. A few minutes later, a man came on the line. "Hello, I'm the skating instructor here. Your daughter was left unsupervised. We're keeping her safe and warm here with us." "Thank you. I'm on my way, I'll be there as fast as I can," I replied, my voice firm but my mind reeling with frustration and anger. As I drove to the rink, my thoughts were a whirlwind. Why would Linda think it was okay to leave Emily at an ice rink alone? And where had she gone with Jack that was so important? When I reached the skating rink, Emily was safe, thankfully, but the scene was a mess. The rink staff had already called the police and the custody service due to the nature of the situation. My heart was pounding as I explained everything to the officers, detailing how Linda had irresponsibly left Emily alone and in an inappropriate environment. The grandma brought them here, skated for a bit, and then just took off with the boy when he fell, the skating instructor told the police, shaking his head. The little girl was shivering in her t-shirt and shorts. I was furious, listening to him. "She's just a child, how could someone think she'd be okay alone in such a place?" I said, my voice cracking with emotion as I gave my statement. The police took everything seriously. They confirmed with the mall security that Linda had been there with the kids for about an hour before rushing off, leaving Emily behind. The more they learned, the angrier I felt. I called Linda right there, needing answers. "Linda, what were you thinking? Emily could have been seriously hurt. Jack was hurt, he needed me. Emily was fine when I left," Linda responded, her tone dismissive as if it was a minor oversight. "Fine? You left her alone, Linda." She was freezing and terrified. I snapped back, hardly believing her lack of concern. After hanging up with Linda, I called Tom to tell him everything. He was livid, beyond upset. "This is unforgivable, Jess. I'm going to make sure this gets handled properly," he said, his voice firm and resolute. The fallout was immediate and severe. The police conducted a thorough investigation, and Linda was fined heavily. Due to the circumstances, she was also barred from any unsupervised visits with Emily. When Tom's brother, Mike, heard about what had happened, he and his wife were appalled and pulled back from Linda, condemning her actions outright. Tom's dad, George, also got involved, upset about the entire situation. "I'm sorry, Tom. I should have stepped in sooner. I followed her lead for too long," he confessed one evening over the phone. He even mentioned that this strain had pushed him to consider a divorce, unable to align with Linda's actions and attitudes any longer. It seemed the whole family dynamic was unraveling because of this incident. Through all this, my resolve only strengthened. Watching how everything unfolded made it clear to me that as a parent, my first and most important job was to protect Emily. I promised myself and her that I'd always be her advocate and shield, no matter what.